The clinking of cutlery against porcelain plates reverberated softly, breaking the silence that enveloped the terrace. Our dinners had taken on a peculiar languor, each moment stretching out like a shadow in the fading light. Not awkward, merely predictable. Our understanding of each other's rhythms was so profound that the silence between us spoke volumes, filling the spaces more powerfully than any words ever could. My husband sat engrossed in his tablet, his glasses precariously perched on the edge of his nose. Meanwhile, I found myself lost in thought, idly twirling my fork through the untouched salad before me. The evening breeze danced around me, teasing the hem of my pale silk dress, worn without undergarments, as the oppressive heat clung to my skin since the early afternoon. The fabric, cool against my skin, gently caressed my waist, making me more aware of the present moment. It was never intended to be alluring. Not in the realm of awareness. I couldn't shake the feeling that my reflection in the window seemed more vibrant, as if something inside me had shifted. "Do you recall when I mentioned that my son's semester draws to a close this week?" He spoke, his gaze fixed on the ground, as if the weight of his words held him captive. He inquired whether he could take refuge with us for a few weeks, seeking solace to clear his troubled mind. I nodded, the words slipping from my lips like a secret waiting to be shared. "Of course," I said, the weight of the moment hanging in the air between us. I nodded, the weight of the moment settling around me like a thick fog. The fork struck the plate again, a sharp sound slicing through the silence. "Absolutely," I reverberated, and a smile spread across their face. Later, I found myself by the kitchen window, the cool water flowing as I rinsed out the glasses, lost in thought. He ascended the staircase, each step echoing in the silence. Once more, the silence enveloped the space. It grew denser, enveloping everything in its path. The garden lights flickered through the window, their glows stretching long, eerie shadows that danced across the grass, whispering secrets of the night. I lingered in that moment, time stretching around me like a taut string, holding my breath as the world faded into the background. Uncertainty enveloped me like a thick fog, leaving me in a state of confusion. Years had slipped by since the mere thought of someone's arrival sent a shiver of nerves coursing through me. Neither guests nor friends, and definitely not him, the son of my husband from his previous marriage. He had always been courteous, an enigmatic figure shrouded in a silence that spoke volumes, possessing a subtle brilliance that never sought the spotlight. But now, with the news of his visit, a spark ignited deep within my chest. A primal urge, perhaps, or perhaps a foreboding sign. The following day, he made his entrance just moments before the lunch hour began. The car door crashed shut, echoing in the stillness of the night. Footsteps echoed along the drive, each sound a harbinger of what was to come. I observed him from the shadows of the kitchen, his silhouette looming as it reached for the door, a sense of anticipation hanging in the air. The same boy I once knew, yet transformed, no longer a boy. His posture had shifted, a subtle yet profound change that spoke volumes. Wider at the shoulders, yet less enthusiastic. With a single strap slung over his shoulder, he ambled forward, one hand casually tucked into his pocket. In that moment, a realization washed over me. He had seamlessly woven together the finest traits of both his parents, creating a tapestry of brilliance that was uniquely his own. Her cheekbones, sharp and defined, held the echoes of 1,000 untold stories. The weight of his father's gaze bore down on him, a silent storm brewing in the depths of those watchful eyes. Yet, beneath the surface, an unspoken truth lingered, a revelation I had overlooked until now. He embraced his father tightly, offered me a brief nod of acknowledgement, and ascended the stairs, his footsteps echoing as he disappeared to stow away his bag. The scent of his cologne hung in the air, a haunting reminder of his presence, a sensation that is sharp, understated, and pure. I realized I had been holding on to this moment for far too long. The lunch was a mere whisper of sustenance. Before me lay a vibrant salad adorned with succulent grilled chicken, accompanied by warm, crusty bread and a refreshing glass of lemonade, each element promising a delightful feast. He offered a subtle compliment about the seasoning, and I responded with a whisper of gratitude that barely escaped my lips. A fleeting moment caught my attention as I brushed a crumb from my lap, and in that brief moment, our eyes met, and the connection felt more intense than usual. It was but a fleeting second, yet it elongated, reaching beyond its limits. In the days that followed, life unfolded in hushed rhythms, each moment steeped in an eerie stillness. The aroma of morning coffee lingered in the air, as shared glances sparked unspoken connections, and brief conversations unfolded like whispered secrets in the doorways. He remained a silent observer, never crossing the threshold into their world. He navigated his surroundings with precision, each word measured, every step on the stairs deliberate and soft. Yet, my awareness of him deepened with each passing moment. He leaned against the counter, his posture relaxed, yet charged with an unspoken intensity as he spoke. He would lock his gaze with mine, a fierce intensity igniting between us, only to divert his eyes at the moment the tension became almost unbearable. And I was lost in the act. Folding laundry with a deliberate slowness, each piece of fabric unfolding stories of the day. As I tread softly, my bare feet whisper against the cool floor of the hallway. My dress clings to me like a whisper, and my perfume lingers in the air, a carefully crafted allure. I convinced myself it was all just a figment of my imagination. I was reveling in the spotlight, basking in the thrill of being noticed. Nothing else remains. Yet, I could feel an unexpected awareness stirring within me, my heart quickening at the faint sound of his door opening. On a dark, restless night, I awoke, parched and yearning for a drink. Shadows clung to the corners of the house, wrapping it in an unsettling gloom. I ventured into the dimly lit hallway, the silk of my nightgown gliding softly against my legs, a delicate caress in the stillness of the night. As I crept down toward the kitchen, a shadow flickered at the edge of the stairs, sending a chill racing down my spine. He stood there, a figure full of intrigue, with the sunlight casting a glow over him. He held a glass of water, the cool surface glistening under the dim light. Our gazes locked, a silent tension hanging in the air between us. The silence hung in the air, thick and palpable. It crackled with intensity. Thick and heavy, the atmosphere hung with an electric tension, as if the world held its breath, waiting for the tempest to break. He nodded once, gliding past me with an air of purpose, not quite touching, yet so near that I could feel the warmth radiating from him. I stood paralyzed, my heart pounding wildly, as if I had been discovered in the midst of a dark secret. Yet, I found myself standing there, innocent and bewildered, as if the world had conspired against me. Not just yet. I crawled back into bed, yet sleep eluded me. My husband lay beside me, his soft snores filling the air, a gentle and peaceful rhythm that wrapped around us like a warm blanket. I stared at the ceiling, my fingers gliding along the edge of the sheet, grappling with the elusive sensation that twisted and coiled deep within my stomach. It was not guilt that weighed on him. It was not desire. It was a palpable tension, a thick air charged with expectation. And that was far more devastating. The morning crept in, dragging its feet as shadows lingered in the corners of the room. I lingered before the mirror, scrutinizing my reflection with an intensity that felt almost merciless. My body remained unchanged, yet it was not to be. I felt a heightened sensitivity that I couldn't ignore. My skin burned with a fierce flush. I slipped into a cotton blouse, the buttons undone just enough to hint at a careless mishap, a knee-length skirt, elegantly modest. Yet, I was acutely aware of the impact it would have. I wasn't dressing for his gaze. I repeated those words to myself over and over. Yet, I wasn't dressing for my husband either. In the dim light of the kitchen, I stumbled upon them, engrossed in a fervent discussion about books. In the shadowy corridors of power, alliances are forged and broken, secrets whispered behind closed doors, and the fate of nations hangs in the balance. The game of politics is a treacherous dance, where every move can lead to glory or ruin, and the stakes are higher than ever. As the players take their positions, the air crackles with tension, and the world watches breathless for the next dramatic turn of events. Breaking news. Once, there were matters that held my heart captive. As I poured the coffee, each drop seemed to echo in the silence, the intensity of his gaze pressing against the curve of my back like a tangible force. And then I pivoted, the world around me shifting in an instant. Locked eyes with him, clutched it tightly, his lips curled into a smile, a flicker of warmth igniting in his eyes. Not with his mouth, only through the intensity of his gaze. Once more, I sensed a profound shift in the air around me. Subtle, yet unchangeable. I steered clear of that room, only venturing inside when it was utterly unavoidable. It wasn't a rule, not in the strictest sense. It felt more like a silent instinct, a whisper in the depths of the soul, the kind that draws you in, compelling you to follow without a second thought. Avoiding cold water or the sting of awkward conversations feels like navigating a treacherous path, each step fraught with tension and uncertainty. The guest room where he was staying lay hidden in the shadowy recesses of the far corner on the second floor. It loomed over the garden, casting a watchful gaze upon the vibrant blooms below. In the stillness of the house, there lay a hidden sanctuary, a place where silence reigned supreme. That morning, I walked toward it, the laundry basket heavy in my hands, accompanied by an unnameable weight that stirred within me. He had ventured out into the cool morning air, the rhythmic pounding of his feet against the pavement echoing in the stillness around him. The sound of the door slamming shut echoed through the silence, sending a shiver down my spine. The steady crunch of his footsteps echoed against the gravel path, a sound both haunting and reassuring in the stillness of the evening. The late summer sun loomed outside, its heat beginning to bear down on the windows. Yet within, the air clung to the lingering coolness of the morning, creating a palpable tension between the seasons. The air in the room was thick with an unfamiliar scent, a comforting embrace of warmth, exuding a rugged masculinity, intertwined with zesty citrus notes and an undercurrent of rich earthiness. His belongings lay strewn about, each item telling a story of a life fully embraced, not merely abandoned. A shirt hung languidly over the chair, its fabric whispering secrets of the day gone by. His bag lay half-zipped on the floor, a silent testament to the chaos that had just unfolded. A book lay abandoned on the windowsill, its pages fluttering gently in the breeze, whispering secrets of worlds yet to be explored. The bed lay in disarray, sheets tangled and pillows askew, a silent testament to the night's restless turmoil. The glass sat abandoned on the nightstand, its emptiness echoing the silence of the room. The atmosphere enveloped them, thick with an unsettling closeness. It felt as though I had stepped directly into the depths of another's mind. As I set the basket down, I crouched low, my fingers brushing against the cool floor as I reached for the scattered socks hidden beneath the chair. The hem of my robe inched up my thighs, a silent tug of gravity entwined with the angle of my body, teasing the boundary between modesty and exposure. It happened without intention, at least not in the depths of awareness. Yet, I refrained from bringing it down as well. As I grasped one of his t-shirts, my fingers hesitated, tracing the soft fabric with a mix of nostalgia and longing. It lingered with a warmth, a subtle echo of the form it once cradled. I envisioned how it had wrapped around him, clinging tightly to his chest, tracing the contours of his shoulders, pressing against his back. A voice drifted from behind me, breaking the silence of the early morning. "You're up early," it said, laced with intrigue. I spun around abruptly, the t-shirt clenched tightly in my grasp. He lingered in the doorway, bare feet touching the cool floor, clad only in shorts, a glimmer of sweat tracing the contours of his collarbone. With one hand gripping the keys tightly, his other hand lingered delicately on the frame, a silent tension hanging in the air. His expression remained impassive, yet his eyes, they were keenly observing, calculating. "I believed you were still gone," I said, striving to keep my voice steady. As I gathered the scattered garments, each piece whispered stories of the day, a tapestry of moments woven into fabric. As he entered the room, he moved with deliberate silence, gently easing the door shut behind him. The latch refused to snap into place. It murmured softly, a voice barely audible yet laden with secrets. And somehow, that sent my heart racing. "I can handle my own mess," he declared, snatching the shirt from my grasp. His fingers grazed against mine, a fleeting touch of warmth, skin on skin, igniting a spark that lingered in the air. Yet it ignited a fierce and urgent sensation deep within my core. "Of course," I murmured, my gaze dropping to the ground. "It's merely a reflex, ingrained deep within me." We stood there, the silence hanging in the air, taut and electric, as if it could snap at any moment. He began, but the journey remained incomplete. "What is happening?" I raised my gaze. He spoke volumes without uttering another word. He was undeniably right. I was aware. I hesitated, my foot retreating slightly, as if sensing the weight of the moment hanging in the air. Every fiber of my being screamed for me to escape, to carve out a realm of possibility. The vast expanse stretched endlessly before her, a chasm of separation that seemed to pulse with an unspoken tension. I shifted my body, weaving a careful path around him, but as I shifted, he advanced ever so slightly and pressed his lips against mine. The time slipped away quickly. There was no immediate need, yet it was precise, exacting, like the sharp edge of a knife, slicing through the fabric of my existence, separating one reality from the next. His presence was calm yet intense, leaving me with an unspoken connection. In an instant, it was all over. I withdrew, not with aggression but with a sense of irrevocable closure. He stood there, silence hanging heavy in the air, refusing to utter a single word of remorse. He remained silent, offering no explanation. His gaze locked onto mine, a silent anticipation hanging in the air. It was as if he understood that the unfolding events were beyond his control. I started to speak, but the words hung in the air, unspoken and unfinished. Silence enveloped me, leaving my mind racing with unspoken words. He gave a solemn nod, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. I understand. I stepped outside. He dashed toward the bathroom, urgency propelling him forward. With a decisive click, the door was locked, sealing away the world beyond. I gazed into the mirror, searching for the reflection that held my secrets. My lips throbbed with a slight swell, a reminder of the intensity that had just unfolded. Heat surged to my cheeks, yet it was my eyes that had transformed. I traced a finger down my neck, the lingering sensation of his presence etched into my skin, even though his hands had never graced that spot. The kiss was not what held the weight of memory. It was the key that unlocked the floodgates of everything I had been feeling all along. In the quiet living room, my husband sat on the sofa, absorbed in the headlines, his mind clearly preoccupied with the day's events. He lifted his gaze, a smile breaking across his face, illuminating the shadows around him. "Is everything all right?" he inquired. I nodded, the weight of the moment settling around us like a thick fog. It was a gentle warmth that enveloped everything around, a soothing embrace that hinted at the promise of something more. I spoke. As dusk settled, I prepared dinner. The soft fabric of my simple house dress swaying gently with each movement. Delicate fabric, gentle cotton, embracing my skin in ways I feigned ignorance to. A surge of electricity coursed through my body. Every movement, every sound, cut through the air with a newfound intensity. He slipped into the kitchen, his footsteps barely making a sound. He filled a glass with water, the clear liquid shimmering in the light. A moment of stillness before the storm. Silence enveloped the room. Yet in the fluidity of his movements, in the intensity of his gaze upon me, everything was revealed. In that moment, a surge of longing washed over me, igniting a fierce desire to experience it once more. Not the kiss, the gaze, the electrifying thrill of being observed. Not as a wife, not as a hostess, but as a woman whose fingers quivered at the echo of footsteps drawing near. The following morning unfolded in a peculiar hush, as if the world held its breath, waiting for something to break the stillness. Calm and relaxed. No, we had long crossed the threshold of tension. It had transformed into something entirely different, a silence that held a lurking peril. The sunlight danced across the kitchen tiles, casting fleeting shadows that whispered secrets. My husband's spoon tapped rhythmically against the edge of his coffee cup, a soft percussion accompanying the rustle of the newspaper, each sound weaving a tapestry of our morning routine. Every sound pierced the silence, resonating with an intensity that suggested the very walls of the house had awakened, straining to hear the secrets whispered within. As he departed for the office around 10, he pressed a gentle kiss on my cheek, his words lingering in the air, about a budget call scheduled for later in the afternoon. I nodded and smiled, yet my body remained tense, each breath constricted beneath my blouse. I stood by the window, my heart racing as I watched him disappear down the road, the tires crunching over the gravel, each sound echoing like a final farewell. From above, the sound of shuffling echoed through the stillness. The door groaned as it slowly swung open, its hinges protesting against the silence of the room. Footsteps echoed in the stillness, followed by the gentle whisper of sheets shifting. I stayed grounded, refusing to ascend. I lingered by the sink, peeling an orange, allowing the juice to envelop my fingers, transforming them into glistening treasures. As the clock struck noon, I found myself nestled in a quaint cafe downtown, anticipation swirling in the air as I awaited the arrival of an old friend I hadn't laid eyes on in months. It was her idea, a spark igniting the darkness that surrounded them, a sudden burst of words, unfiltered and raw, a seemingly innocent suggestion for lunch, one I had embraced without a second thought, unaware of the twists that awaited. I had to escape the confines of the house. From within me, she stepped into the room, her presence felt even before she was seen, as she always did, fashionably late, brimming with vitality. It was a cacophony, the kind that erupts when people desperately attempt to assure themselves that chaos is kept at bay. "How does it feel to be bound in the sacred ties of marriage?" she inquired, her voice a soft murmur that danced between the cool sip of her iced tea and the delicate slice of a salad she had no intention of finishing. "Stable," I declared, a smile creeping across my lips. It was a smile steeped in ambiguity, the kind that flickers across your face when someone inquires about your happiness, leaving you caught in a web of unspoken truths and veiled lies. Her laughter echoed through the air, a sound that danced like sunlight on water. "Oh, how I envy you. Honestly, if I have to feign another climax, I might as well start billing by the hour." I chuckled, or perhaps it was something akin to laughter. Yet, a heavy burden lodged itself in my throat, because I had shed all pretense. Emotions surged within me, overwhelming and intense. In a heartbeat, it was over, unrefined and unfiltered. She poured out her heart about her husband, her children, and the relentless tide of obligations and compromises that consumed her every waking moment. I leaned in, my senses heightened, ready to absorb every sound that surrounded me. He nodded, a silent agreement hanging in the air, charged with unspoken tension. Shared insights at pivotal moments, yet my mind wandered to distant realms. His eyes lingered in my thoughts, vivid and haunting. The intensity of their gaze as they searched mine, just moments before our lips met, was electric. The distance lingered like a ghost, haunting the air between us, untouched by the finality of the doors shut. As we savored the last bites of our meal, the waiter approached with an unexpected takeout bag in hand, a mystery I hadn't anticipated. With a polite smile, he gestured toward the gentleman in the distance and said, "From him." I spun around, heart racing, but the shadows held only silence. The corner table sat in silence, untouched and waiting. With a furrowed brow, I unzipped the bag, curiosity gnawing at me. Within its folds lay a simple brown napkin, unassuming yet full of untold stories. A brief note scrawled in a bold, recognizable hand, each letter brimming with urgency and intent. It was no mere accident, that much is certain. My fingers tightened around the edge of the table, a silent anchor in the storm of emotions swirling within me. A single message, clear and unadorned, hung in the air like a whisper waiting to be heard. Visionary. A void lingered where a name should have been. Silence enveloped the room, thick and heavy, as if the air itself held its breath. Shadows danced in the corners, whispering secrets of the unknown. A palpable tension hung in the atmosphere, leaving an unsettling feeling that something was about to unfold. The absence of words spoke volumes, igniting curiosity and anticipation in equal measure. Only a mere confirmation of all the unspoken words that lingered in the shadows. With deliberate precision, I folded the napkin and tucked it away into my bag, a small yet significant gesture that felt laden with meaning. My friend remained oblivious. Her eyes were glued to the screen, fingers dancing over the surface as she scrolled through an endless stream of content. Her voice faded into a mere whisper, lost amidst the chaos that surrounded me. We exchanged our final words beneath the fading light, the air thick with unspoken emotions. She enveloped me in a fierce embrace. They suggested we should indulge in this experience more frequently. I nodded, offered my gratitude, and made my way to the car, my legs feeling like they belonged to someone else. He loomed across the street, a shadowy figure in the dim light, watching with an intensity that sent shivers down the spine. Unveiling the truth, silence lingered, devoid of any smiles, merely standing there, with his hands buried deep in his pockets. He stood there, a figure shrouded in mystery, observing. Vehicles surged and flowed like a restless tide, weaving a barrier between us. Vehicles whizzed by, cars darting in and out, buses lumbering along, and a delivery van weaving through the chaos. I remained frozen in place. He didn't either. For a full minute, we stood there, engulfed in a whirlwind of movement and noise, yet utterly isolated in that fleeting moment. In that moment, I pivoted, slipped into the car, the door shutting with a soft thud behind me. With trembling hands, the engine roared to life. My heart pounded fiercely in my chest, not from guilt, not out of fear, from the rush of adrenaline, from an entity that had yet to be defined. Upon returning home, the weight of the house pressed down, thick and suffocating. Silence hung in the air, thick and palpable. The walls closed in, suffocating the air around her. The walls closed in. I placed my purse on the table, the soft thud echoing in the stillness of the room. Stepped into the kitchen, frozen in place, the air thick with anticipation. He stepped through the door 30 minutes later, the air thick with anticipation. The fabric clung to his skin, heavy and damp from the steam of the shower, hair tousled just enough to hint at a wild adventure. He averted his gaze, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air between us. As I poured a glass of water, the cool liquid cascaded into the glass, and I leaned against the counter, feeling the weight of the moment settle around me. "Have you ventured somewhere?" he inquired. Laid back. "Cafe," I replied, the word hanging in the air like a promise waiting to be fulfilled. "Encountered a friend." He gave a subtle nod, a silent agreement that hung in the air, heavy with unspoken words. She cast a fleeting look at the window. Once more, an oppressive silence enveloped the air. Yet, this silence was unlike any other, the kind that reveals everything. It clings to your neck, a constant presence that tightens just enough to ensure you never forget its existence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I stepped into the kitchen, ready to weave a tapestry of flavors for dinner. With an unexpected precision, I sliced through the vegetables, each cut sharper and more deliberate than I had ever managed before. He lingered in the kitchen, his back pressed against the cool counter, the silence wrapping around him like a heavy cloak. "They are watching me." Silence enveloped the room, heavy and thick, as unspoken words lingered in the air. A shiver ran down my spine as I sensed his piercing gaze fixed on the back of my neck. With every stretch of my arm, a delicate curve traced its path, a silent witness to my every reach. In a fleeting moment, the knife slipped from my grasp, clattering to the ground with a sharp, echoing thud. With precision, yet it felt as though my fingers had lost the very memory of grasping. It clattered against the tiles, a cacophony of sound that echoed in the stillness, spinning once in a dizzying dance before finally coming to a halt, its unwavering tip aimed directly at him. He lowered himself, reaching for it with a sense of urgency. He placed it in my hands. His fingers brushed against mine, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. The contact was fleeting, barely a whisper in the vast silence that surrounded them. On the edge of existence. But my breath hitched in my throat. Silence enveloped him, a heavy shroud that spoke louder than words ever could. Yet, it was in his eyes that the truth lay bare, revealing secrets untold. As the sun dipped below the horizon, we found ourselves nestled on the couch, the world outside fading into shadows. All three of us stood together. My husband sat absorbed in the glow of his tablet, lost in a world of words and stories. His son was absorbed in the glow of his phone, fingers dancing across the screen as he scrolled through an endless stream of content. And I, feigning the art of knitting. The air crackled with tension, our legs almost brushing against each other, a mere whisper away from crossing an unspoken boundary. My fingers quivered around the yarn, each strand a whisper of untold stories waiting to be woven into existence. He moved just enough for his knee to graze against mine, sending a jolt of electricity through the air between us. Not by design, yet it was no mere accident. I remained still. I remained steadfast, refusing to retreat. And when I finally lifted my eyes, I discovered his gaze, poised, unwavering, and full of unspoken intensity. Calm and unwavering. Incomprehensible. Steadfast. Silence enveloped us. We had no reason to. The days that followed unfolded like a monotonous tapestry, each thread woven with small, unremarkable routines that blurred into one another. Yet, that was merely the facade they presented to the world. The sun began to rise, casting a warm glow over the kitchen as the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, awakening the senses and promising a new day full of possibilities. Common grounds where lives intertwine, engaging dialogues filled with courtesy. Yet, beneath the surface of those seemingly mundane moments, there pulsed a hidden rhythm, a heartbeat that resonated solely between us. Each movement was a deliberate act, steeped in purpose. Every silence was thick with unspoken tension. We were lost in a world of make-believe, not solely for my husband, yet to ourselves, feigning that everything remained unchanged, that we had not yet ventured into forbidden territory, that a path to redemption still existed. Yet, deep down, we understood the truth. My husband, unwavering as ever, stood firm, calm, and collected. Vigilant, as a man is when he believes his universe is perfectly aligned, he remained oblivious to the way I hesitated as I walked by the guest room door, or how my gaze held just a fraction too long when his son stepped into the room. He remained oblivious to the way my body tensed ever so slightly as someone brushed past me in the hallway. In the sanctuary of my own home, a sense of caution enveloped me, sharpening my senses to every creak and whisper in the shadows. Yet, what captivated me even more was the profound awareness I had developed of the space that lingered between us. As twilight descended, the three of us gathered in the heart of the home. The kitchen, where shadows danced and secrets simmered. It had morphed into an unshakable routine. As my husband slipped away to his office after dinner, the weight of his absence settled in the room. I was left to tackle the remnants of our meal alone, when suddenly his son appeared in the doorway, a casual smile on his face, offering his help. The air shifted, charged with unspoken tension and the promise of unexpected moments. Under the cloak of night, he glided through the kitchen, effortlessly slicing apples with a serene precision, while I tended to the bubbling water for tea. Silence enveloped us in those initial moments. The rhythmic tap of a knife against the cutting board echoed in the stillness, the kettle's soft hum rising like a whisper, while faint creaks of footsteps above us added an air of mystery to the moment. Then his voice broke the silence. His voice was a hushed whisper, barely breaking the silence. Proceed with caution, yet resolute. I have no intention of leading you astray. I stood motionless, transformed. Gradually, his gaze was averted, as if I were a ghost lingering in the shadows. With maddening precision, the blade sliced through, piece by piece, each cut a deliberate act of focus and intent. But I believe you already are, he pressed on, his voice low and intense. Perplexed, I fixated on his hands, watching the way his knuckles shifted, the controlled serenity he exuded. I'm not, I started, my voice barely a whisper, the weight of my words hanging in the air like a storm about to break. But then everything came to a sudden halt. For I, too, harbored doubts within my own heart. At last, his gaze met mine with unwavering clarity, with unwavering resolve and no trace of regret, but with absolute conviction. The sensation coursed through you, undeniable and electric. It was a clash of wills, a dance of power, where neither side held the upper hand. And if you choose to act as if it never occurred, so be it. I won't force it, but do not deceive yourself. His voice held no trace of anger. The chill seeped into every corner, an oppressive silence hanging in the air. Only the truth. Oh, the kind of truth so rare and unbearable that it sends shivers down the spine, compelling people to flee from it at any cost. The silence hung heavy in the air, a taut wire ready to snap at any moment. I poured the scalding water into the mugs, deliberately, allowing the rising steam to cloud my sight. "I'm married," I finally confessed. The words shattered like glass on my tongue. "Do you really believe I'm unaware of that?" He retreated, creating a chasm between us, yet his presence lingered, an unyielding weight against my very being. "I'm not here to destroy anything," he declared, his voice steady yet laced with an undercurrent of tension. "I can't bear the thought of pretending you're not there." He stepped away from the kitchen, the plate of fruit clutched tightly in his hands, as if it held the weight of unspoken secrets. I lingered at the counter, the silence stretching around me like a thick fog, my fingers clenched tightly around the edge of the sink. It wasn't the words that escaped his lips. He was undeniably correct, because I yearned to be noticed. I craved it in a way I hadn't dared to acknowledge for years. I had meticulously crafted my existence to fit the mold of expectation, calm and focused, exuding a subtle allure that captivates without crossing boundaries. A woman who carefully curated her allure, just enough to ignite desire, yet always holding back to maintain the delicate equilibrium of her home. Yet, the scales had irrevocably tipped. That night, as darkness enveloped the room, my husband reached out to me in bed. His hands moved with a familiarity that spoke of countless hours spent honing their craft, each motion deliberate and practiced, as if they were part of a well-rehearsed dance. His lips brushed against my shoulder, trailing down my back, as he murmured something tender and instinctive. I surrendered completely. I remained frozen in place, yet an icy chill enveloped my body, not in the heat of the moment. In reply, he mistook my silence for exhaustion, pressed his lips gently to my forehead, and then walked away. I lay there, eyes wide, fixated on the ceiling above me. The gentle hum of the fan caressed my skin, whispering a question into the stillness of the room. What was the matter with me? Why did the once comforting presence now evoke a sense of emptiness? Why did the warmth of his presence only intensify the longing within me? The memory of his son's gaze lingered in my mind, haunting and intense. The raw truth, the tight grip of control. His silence spoke volumes, a quiet strength that demanded nothing in return. He provided nothing but his awareness. His presence loomed like a shadow, enveloping the room in an air of mystery and dissipation. He had not made any attempts to lure me in. He had yet to lay a finger on me beyond that electrifying kiss. Yet the fire within me raged more fiercely from his absence than from any other source of pain. The following morning, I lingered in front of the mirror, captivated by my own reflection longer than I ever had before. My reflection remained unchanged, a haunting echo of familiarity. Yet I found myself far from it. Clad in a sleek navy skirt that hugged my form, I felt an undeniable sense of confidence wash over me. Unassuming, organized. It was the kind that whispered secrets without ever revealing them. A blouse, pure white, with a neckline that dipped just low enough to evoke a sense of purpose, drawing the eye and igniting curiosity. Below, I selected delicate lace. Not that anyone would ever lay eyes on it. Yet, the knowledge of its presence would linger in my mind. It stirred emotions within me that had long been buried, awakening sensations I thought were lost to time. Warning, awake. As the dawn light crept through the window, I moved silently in the kitchen, preparing breakfast with a careful grace. My husband sat absorbed in his phone, his fingers dancing across the screen as he occasionally broke the silence with comments about the emails that flickered before him. As the aroma of the meal filled the air, his son burst into the kitchen, a whirlwind of energy and curiosity. In that fleeting moment, our gazes locked, a silent connection igniting between us. Only for a moment. Yet within that fleeting glance lay the weight of all the unspoken words between us. As the day wore on, I caught sight of him in the dimly lit hallway. We pressed on, undeterred, left untouched. Yet our shoulders grazed against each other. Just a whisper. My breath hitched in my throat. His hand twitched, a fleeting movement, as if it yearned to bridge the distance between us. He simply did not. Yet, I let him go on. Yet, the heat lingered within me, a smoldering ember that refused to fade even after I had turned my back. It was over dinner, amidst the clinking of silverware and the soft murmur of conversation, that he proposed the trip, his eyes glinting with excitement and possibility. On a Wednesday evening, the rain started to fall, its rhythmic patter echoing the somber mood that had settled in since the late afternoon. Calm and unwavering, slender. A rain that draped the windows in a veil of moisture, causing them to weep, while the floorboards groaned beneath the weight of the storm's melancholy. We gathered around the table, the three of us, savoring the smoky flavors of grilled vegetables and tender salmon, the kind of stillness in a meal that reflected the delicate balance of our life intertwined, in perfect harmony, uninspired. "We should escape this weekend," my husband suggested, his fork piercing the flaky fish on his plate. A mere whisper of distance. A fleeting journey awaits, in a place where the water whispers secrets perhaps. Time has slipped through our fingers, leaving us yearning for those moments together as a family. He uttered the words with a disarming nonchalance, devoid of any hint of irony. It felt as though everything in our home remained untouched, frozen in time. It felt as though an unseen force throbbed just beneath the surface, connecting me to his son in a way I couldn't fully comprehend. I took a slow sip of my wine, my gaze fixed firmly on the table before me. Silence hung in the air as I hesitated, the weight of the moment pressing down on me. "That sounds nice," his son remarked, a hint of curiosity in his voice. His voice flowed smoothly, yet I could sense the heavy burden it carried. I lifted my gaze then, locked eyes with him for a heartbeat longer than intended. His lips remained a tight line, devoid of any trace of a smile. He was under no obligation to do so. By the break of dawn, the trip was secured, setting the stage for an adventure that awaited just beyond the horizon. A coastal hotel, where crisp white sheets lay invitingly on plush beds, and expansive windows framed a breathtaking view that captivated the eye, yet left the heart untouched. In silence, we filled our bags, each movement heavy with unspoken words. The journey stretched on for 3 hours, beneath a canopy of gray skies that loomed overhead. Silence enveloped us, broken only by the crackle of the radio and the sporadic murmurs of my husband, each word a fleeting connection in the vast emptiness around us. I perched in the passenger seat, my legs entwined in a tight embrace, hands resting nervously in my lap. He lingered just behind me, and every so often, a prickling sensation crawled up my spine as I sensed his gaze boring into the nape of my neck. My skin reacted as if it had a mind of its own. At the hotel, chaos erupted at the reception as a mix-up unfolded. Only 2 rooms remain, leaving one less than before. The clerk's voice trembled with sincerity as he apologized, his eyes darting to the larger room, where he proposed to move a cot, a flicker of hope igniting in the air. My husband dismissed it with a knowing smile, as if he held the secrets of the universe behind that simple gesture. "They have the power to share. It's just a weekend," he said, his voice laced with an unsettling calmness that hinted at the storm brewing beneath the surface. "Besides, the 2 of you share a bond that runs deeper than mere acquaintance." His words flowed like a gentle embrace, infused with a deep sense of trust. He relinquished the keys, oblivious to the dark door he had just opened. We found our place, ready for what lay ahead. The room we inhabited held 2 beds, each positioned just far enough apart to create the illusion of separate realms. Yet the air that hung between them was charged, almost palpable. He stepped into the shower, the water cascading over him like a cleansing waterfall. I perched by the window, enveloped in silence, my gaze fixed on the restless ocean, arms tightly coiled around my knees. The relentless rush of water behind the bathroom door echoed ominously, far louder than it had any right to be. As he stepped out, his hair glistening with moisture, a towel draped nonchalantly over his shoulder, I remained silent, my heart racing, before slipping inside to claim my moment. The mirror was shrouded in a thick fog, yet through the haze I caught a glimpse of my flushed cheeks, a telltale sign of the turmoil brewing within. My lips parted ever so slightly, a thrill coursing through my body, an electric tension that I couldn't quite identify. I slipped into a soft cotton nightdress, the fabric whispering against my skin as I embraced the comforting embrace of the night. Long and unassuming, yet clinging just enough to the skin from the weight of the humidity, I wore it in a way that felt comfortable, without thinking too much about it. We sat side by side, eyes glued to the flickering screen of his tablet, lost in a series that neither of us truly cared for. The plot unfolded around us, but our minds drifted elsewhere, caught in a web of unspoken thoughts and shared silence. The glow from the screen flickered, weaving a tapestry of shifting shadows that danced across the room. I perched on one bed, he lingered on the opposite, the air thick with unspoken words as the volume whispered softly around us. At a certain moment, he rose to draw the curtain shut. As he made his way back, he came to a halt beside me. "Are you all right?" he asked, his voice a hushed whisper, drawing her in closer. I gave a solemn nod. Exhaustion weighed heavily on me. He remained still, yet I sensed his fingers brush against my shoulder. A caress so delicate it seemed to exist only in my mind. But I never anticipated the way my skin responded. A subtle, involuntary shiver coursing through me. "I couldn't forget the moment," he admitted, as we shared a quiet conversation. The distance that once separated us had dissolved into nothingness. "The thought has consumed me," he confessed. Silence enveloped the moment. I had no reason to. He leaned down, deliberately allowing me every opportunity to pull away. I did not. He moved closer, and the connection between us became undeniable, leaving me with a lingering sense of tension. This time, there was only certainty, a chilling resolve that left no room for doubt. This kiss was no mere accident. It was an invitation, a silent agreement that changed everything. He placed his hand gently at my side, and I felt the weight of his attention on me. The kiss intensified for a fleeting moment, not from urgency, but from the heavy burden that pressed down upon him. As we separated, silence enveloped us, heavy and unyielding. It was unnecessary. He slipped back into the embrace of his bed, the cool sheets welcoming him as he lay down. With a flick of his finger, the tablet's glow faded into darkness, leaving him in the stillness of the night. I reclined on mine, heart pounding, senses heightened in a way they hadn't been in years. The room hummed with an unspoken tension, a silence thick with anticipation. The shadows danced across the ceiling, revealing the faint silhouette of his body, barely discernible in the enveloping darkness. As the clock struck past midnight, I shifted my gaze to meet his eyes. Once more, our gazes locked in an unspoken exchange. The ocean whispered secrets beyond the window, and a restless energy surged within me, urging me to stay awake. I yearned for the silence to linger endlessly, wrapping around me like a comforting shroud. The following morning, a sharp knock echoed through the door, heralding my husband's arrival before breakfast. We responded in hushed tones, as if the night had wrapped us in silence, yet his presence lingered, an electric trace on my lips, a weight on my body, shaping the very way I moved through the world. As the aroma of toast mingled with the rich scent of coffee, my husband leaned in, his voice low and urgent, revealing a meeting back home that he simply couldn't afford to miss. He would have to depart that very evening, yet we had the option to linger for one more night if we chose to do so. I hesitated, the silence stretching between us like a taut wire, waiting for the right moment to snap. I observed the golden butter cascade over his toast, each droplet of coffee plunging into the depths of his cup with a deliberate slowness. With a gentle nod, I finally acquiesced. Perhaps. Once breakfast had concluded, I found myself returning to the room in solitude. My heart pulsed with a new rhythm, neither hurried nor languid, but driven by intent. My body surged forward, as if guided by an instinct that understood its deepest desires. I perched on the edge of the bed, the spot where he had once lain, the air thick with memories and unspoken words. The pillow still clung to his scent, a haunting reminder of his presence. I pressed my hand into the surface, feeling the coolness beneath my palm. Only this once. Then I rose to my feet, leaving everything behind, unburdened by the weight of possessions. With his departure, the room seemed to swallow the last remnants of warmth, leaving an unsettling void in its wake. That evening, my husband walked through the door exactly as he had promised, his expression a mix of fatigue and determination. He spoke of a whirlwind of meetings and a client dinner that had been impossible to rearrange, each word laced with the weight of his day. In the bustling hotel lobby, he wrapped his arms around me gently, pressing a kiss to my cheek, a gesture infused with the familiar, yet distant warmth that had lingered between us for years. I stood there, a smile playing on my lips, as he maneuvered his bag through the revolving glass doors. For a fleeting moment, his silhouette twisted in the reflection. Then, like a whisper, it disappeared completely. He remained blissfully unaware. Not at that moment. Not just yet. We lingered. Just one more night, he whispered, savoring the salty breeze and the stillness that enveloped him, a fleeting escape before the relentless grip of reality pulled him back. The words hung in the air, carefully crafted to mask the truth, a silent agreement between us to avoid confronting the unspoken tension that loomed large. The chill of that night wrapped around everything, a biting reminder of the darkness that lay ahead. The breeze off the coast whispered into the room, curling around the edges of the closed windows, as if it carried secrets from the sea. I draped myself in one of the hotel's pristine white robes, gliding through the space as if it were a mysterious realm. Despite its familiarity, it was over. No turning back now. He was nowhere to be found. Absent from the room, not in a tangible way. He had claimed he needed to walk, to clear the fog in his mind, and then he vanished into the night after dinner, taking nothing but a thin jacket and the weight of his silence with him. Time stretched endlessly as I lingered in the silence, anticipation thrumming in the air around me. In the dim silence, I found myself at the desk, shrouded in darkness, with only the flickering blue light of the TV casting eerie shadows across the room. I left it untouched, the switch lingering in silence. The darkness enveloped me as I gazed at the silhouette of my own form against the void of the black screen. Legs crossed, arms drawn tightly to my sides, a stillness that felt almost palpable. As I reflected on our actions, a whirlwind of emotions surged within me. Or rather, what we had come perilously close to achieving. Though the kiss in that room had ignited a fire within me, it concluded with a haunting sense of restraint. Once more, conflicted emotions swirled within me, leaving me uncertain if I should feel a sense of relief or succumb to devastation. Yet, the barrier was not one of miles. It was the closeness that drew them in. In the perilous dance of fate, the air crackled with an intoxicating tension, drawing them closer into a whirlwind of uncertainty. The door creaked open, a whisper in the stillness of the night, just past 11. He crossed the threshold, the darkness swallowing him whole as he chose not to flick on the light. In the dim light, his gaze locked onto mine, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. I remained silent. I had no reason to. He sat across from me, hands resting in his lap, his gaze unwavering and intense, exhausted. He recounted his steps to the docks, each footfall echoing with purpose. Uncertainty gripped me, yet I pressed on, driven by an inexplicable force. I gave a solemn nod. With a glint of intrigue in his eyes, he reached into his coat pocket and said, "And then I wrote something." With a deliberate motion, he extended his hand, revealing a folded sheet of lined paper, its edges worn and creased, as if it held secrets waiting to be uncovered. A moment of uncertainty gripped me as I stood there, the choice of what to read swirling in my mind like a tempest. He rose to his feet, the air thick with anticipation, and stepped into the bathroom, gently shutting the door with a quiet click that echoed in the stillness. With deliberate care, I peeled back the page, each movement steeped in anticipation. The handwriting danced across the page, a hurried elegance that still managed to convey its message with clarity. Without any introduction, silence hung in the air, thick and heavy as the tension built. The shadows danced around, whispering secrets of the past, while the heart raced with anticipation. Every moment felt charged, as if the world itself was holding its breath, waiting for the inevitable clash that would change everything. In the distance, a storm brewed, mirroring the turmoil within. The stage was set, and the players were ready to make their move. Your gaze constricts my chest, a silent struggle to hold back the intensity swirling between us. The moment you step into the room, an electric tension fills the air, a palpable presence that grips me long before your figure comes into view. A shadow looms over my thoughts, an enigma that refuses to fade. I yearn for it to break free from the confines of my imagination and become something real, something tangible. The desire for clarity pulses within me, demanding an end to this ethereal torment. My eyes locked onto the words, each line pulling me deeper as I reread them, lost in their haunting familiarity. They lacked the elegance of poetry. They were not the puppeteers of fate. They were unassuming, truthful. They filled me with dread. Every sentence resonated within me, a rhythmic pulse that echoed through my very being. As he stepped out of the bathroom, silence enveloped him like a shroud. With a swift motion, I crossed the room and let the paper slip from my grasp. "I can't go through with this if it's going to cause you pain," he declared, his voice heavy with concern. "Yet, I can't deny that thoughts of you consume my mind every moment I'm close to you." I released a breath, the air escaping my lungs like a whisper of secrets untold. A haunting sound echoed through the stillness. An unexpected revelation I never meant to share. He sank back into his seat, the weight of the moment pressing down on him, nearer now. The silence stretched, yet it felt transformed, charged with an unspoken tension that hung in the air. The silence of the uncharged device hung in the air, a palpable tension waiting to be broken. Completely filled. And then he spoke the words that would change everything. "The sensation washes over you, undeniable and electric. I can sense it within you." And the most agonizing truth was that I truly did. Not merely in stolen glances or the fleeting memory of a kiss, but in a realm that runs far deeper than that, in a heavy ache that clung to me as I returned home. As I sank deeper into the monotony of my former existence, a sense of dread began to creep in, wrapping around me like a suffocating shroud. How suddenly the routine had transformed into something utterly unbearable. As I shut my eyes, the world around me faded into darkness. As I let my shoulders ease, just a fraction, a wave of calm washes over me. "This isn't sustainable," I whispered, my voice barely breaking the heavy silence that surrounded us. "This situation is at a standstill, trapped in an unyielding grip." "Then don't let it," he urged, his voice laced with urgency. "Allow it to unfold as it will. For the moment, there are no guarantees." His voice resonated with a tranquil intensity, low yet unmistakably clear. Neither persuasive nor deceptive, simply a raw truth laid bare. He sought nothing in return. He was extending gifts, each one wrapped in mystery and anticipation. In that moment, the weight of its rarity struck me like a bolt of lightning. To be witnessed without expectation, to be observed free from the burden of expectation. As darkness enveloped the world outside, I found myself perched by the window, captivated by the dance of shadows cast by the waves as they caressed the shore. Triumph eluded me. I felt no shame at all. A pulse thrummed beneath my fingertips, as if the very essence of life was cradled within my grasp. Delicate, authentic. The following morning, we departed the hotel. Enveloped in a heavy silence, the journey home stretched endlessly, punctuated by fleeting conversations, a brief stop at a gas station, and the sudden shift in the weather that loomed ominously ahead. As we stepped inside, the house enveloped us in an eerie silence, as if holding its breath in anticipation. My husband had already slipped away into the shadows. A note lay on the kitchen counter, its words a promise of his delayed return, casting a shadow of uncertainty over the quiet room. Gatherings of minds. As I stepped into my room, the air was thick with anticipation. I began to unpack, each item revealing a piece of my journey, a whisper of stories waiting to unfold. The robe slipped away into the depths of the laundry, disappearing from sight as the door closed behind it. The perfume bottle returned to its place on the shelf, a silent sentinel of memories long past. The necklace lay hidden in the drawer, as if it had never truly departed from my life. As I stepped into the guest room, a sense of anticipation washed over me. The bed lay in disarray, sheets tangled and pillows askew, a silent testament to the chaos that had unfolded. The book he had been engrossed in lay open on the desk, its pages whispering secrets of worlds yet to be explored. Within its pages, I tucked away a folded letter, a secret waiting to be uncovered. A reply that echoes through the silence, waiting to be heard. I barely put pen to paper, only a single sentence. For years I wandered through life, a shadow of my former self, until this moment changed everything. And I set the book down, its pages whispering secrets in the stillness, and with a soft click, I closed the door, sealing away the world within. As I turned away, the mundane task of starting the laundry awaited, a stark contrast to the tale I had just left behind. The days that followed hung heavy in the air, a suffocating stillness that masked an undercurrent of turmoil. The air hung heavy with a tense stillness, a fragile pause that whispered of impending change, as if the world itself held its breath, teetering on the brink of the irreversible. A silence that vibrated with tension in every heartbeat. It hung there, thick and electric, a palpable tension that crackled just before the storm unleashed its fury. Like the fleeting moment just before the glass splinters into 1,000 shards. At breakfast, the familiar routine enveloped the room, a comforting veil of normalcy that masked the undercurrents of change lurking just beneath the surface. As my husband chewed on his toast, he brought the news to life, his voice weaving through the morning air like a thread of intrigue. His voice was steady, unwavering. His routine remained unyielding, a steadfast anchor in the storm of life. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, casting a warm glow over his hands as he cradled his mug, the golden rays igniting the very tips of his fingers. It was the detail that captured my attention, overshadowing every word that escaped his lips. The glow, how it moved him deeply. Across the table, his son lingered in silence, the weight of unspoken words hanging heavily in the air. He averted his gaze, refusing to meet my eyes. He felt no compulsion to do so. His presence lingered in the silence that followed each utterance. His presence lingered in the air, a palpable weight that made me pause before each movement. It coiled like a serpent at the base of my spine, and every swallow sent a shiver through the hollow of my throat, a reminder of his unyielding influence. Since that fateful night at the hotel, the kisses had vanished, leaving an aching silence in their wake. A vital piece of the puzzle. We had entered a realm of understanding that transcended the need for words. The tension had shifted. It was no longer about what could happen, but about who held the reins of power. I convinced myself that we had finally found a fragile balance, that nothing more would unfold, that we could traverse the edge of this longing without succumbing to its depths. I held on to that belief with unwavering conviction. For nearly a week, the tension hung in the air like a thick fog, each passing hour stretching the limits of patience and resolve. It was a night like no other in the garden. On that fateful Friday, the air crackled with anticipation. The air hung thick with the weight of late summer, a palpable tension that wrapped around everything like a shroud. The air was heavy, with the rich aroma of damp earth, freshly mown grass, and a delicate hint of sweetness that lingered, reminiscent of jasmine. The garden lights flickered to life, illuminating the path with gentle yellow arcs that danced like whispers in the night. My husband slipped into bed early, his face shadowed by the weight of a headache he claimed was too much to bear. I stood outside, feigning the act of watering the plants, my heart racing with anticipation. He emerged silently, as he always did, stepping from the darkness into the gentle halo of light that surrounded me. "You're still awake," he whispered, his voice slicing through the silence of the night. A declaration, not an inquiry. I nodded, my gaze averted from him. The air is thick with warmth. Sleep eludes me. He edged forward, the tension in the air thickening around him. The warmth of his body radiated close to mine, igniting a spark that sent shivers down my spine. I stood my ground. "Why do you continue to wear this mask?" he whispered softly. My breath hitched in my throat. "What are you pretending? Is this not consuming you from the inside?" I pivoted to face him then. Gradually, the hose slipped from my fingers, water gushing into the earth, left behind and unheeded. "You think I'm unaffected," I said, my voice teetering on the edge of calm. "I sense fear in you," he responded, his voice low and piercing. His eyes held a serene stillness, a tranquil surface concealing the storm beneath. Not merciless, far from a challenge. Only the present moment exists. The same unbearable honesty washed over her, relentless and unyielding. The kind that struck me with unyielding force. "What do you mean?" I breathed my words softly into the silence. He spoke of the consequences that follow when one ceases to wear a mask. Silence hung in the air, thick and heavy, as time seemed to stand still, a lengthy tale. The water gathered around the plants, saturating the soil and deepening its shadowy hue. Somewhere behind us, a wind chime clattered, its sound echoing briefly before succumbing to an eerie silence. He edged forward, the tension crackling in the air around him. This time, I remained still. Not a single blink. Held my breath. "I want to leave," he said, his voice trembling with urgency. "Tomorrow dawns, a day shrouded in mystery and anticipation. For a handful of days, time stretched and twisted, each moment laden with unspoken tension. Only the two of us." The words plunged into the chasm that separated us, creating ripples that expanded relentlessly, echoing through the silence with each passing moment. "You're serious," I stated, my voice steady, not even bothering to frame it as a question. "Indeed." But what unfolds next? Uncertainty loomed like a shadow, wrapping around me, leaving me adrift in a sea of questions. I was lost, searching for answers that danced just out of reach. He stood resolute, unyielding in the face of it all. I averted my gaze from him, taking measured steps down the winding path, the cool, damp grass clinging to my bare feet. His gaze lingered on me, an unyielding presence that sent shivers down my spine. The sky hung heavy, a tapestry of bruised clouds threatening to unleash their fury. Silence enveloped me as I drew my arms tightly around myself, the weight of unspoken words hanging in the air. "You can't be asking me to run away." "No," he declared, his voice firm and resolute. "I'm inviting you to join me in something extraordinary, by my side." For a fleeting instant, time seemed to stand still. I pivoted to confront him once more. The garden light danced upon his features, illuminating them with a golden glow that seemed to etch his very essence into the twilight. "I can't make promises," I said, my voice steady, yet laced with uncertainty. I'm not seeking any. "So, what is it that you truly seek?" His voice remained steady, unwavering in the face of uncertainty. "Cease the charade. This is more than mere curiosity. Your admission reveals a longing to be close to me, a spark igniting within you that makes you feel truly alive once more. Because I simply do." My throat constricted, a heavy weight settling in as the tension mounted. My hands trembled uncontrollably at my sides. "I can't leave tomorrow," I murmured, my voice barely breaking the silence. "It would not go unnoticed. Then arrives the day that follows." His tone held no urgency, no drive behind it, no begging. Only the weight of existence hung in the air, only the offer. The truth, an unbearable weight, looms heavy in the air. With a sudden surge of determination, he extended his hand. Only by a hair's breadth, his fingers glided softly along my wrist, sending a shiver through me, a whisper of a touch, barely there yet profoundly felt. As if it were the final mark on a perilous endeavor. And then he vanished into the shadows, leaving me alone in the silence. In the stillness of the garden, a solitary figure lingered, surrounded by the whispers of nature. The hose continued to flow, a relentless stream of water cutting through the air. My feet were drenched, the cold water seeping into my shoes, a relentless reminder of the storm that raged around me. I lingered in the darkness, the last flicker of light fading into the shadows around me. Upon my return to the house, I found the letter I had tucked between the pages of his book waiting for me, resting on my pillow, as if it had never left. They found themselves on the same page. My words, etched in ink. For years I wandered through life, a shadow of my former self, but now something has shifted within me. In the depths of his scrawl, a command lingered. Don't stop. He chose to let it linger in the shadows, unspoken and heavy in the air. The offer lingered in the air, a palpable tension weaving through the space between us. Hanging in the balance, silent whispers linger in the air, heavy with the weight of untold stories. Like a haunting melody that lingers in the air, forever suspended, never finding its conclusion. I found myself waiting, hoping he would bring it up again. To inquire whether I had reached a conclusion, yet he chose not to, and that silence weighed down like an unyielding force, more oppressive than any pressure could ever be. The following day unfolded in a blur of monotonous duties, each moment slipping away like grains of sand through an hourglass. The morning unfolded as I immersed myself in the relentless task of scrubbing the sink, my mind consumed by an almost feverish determination. As the bristles sank into the metal, a sharp sting coursed through my hands, each stroke igniting a deep ache that resonated with every movement. With meticulous care, I transformed the pantry into a realm of order and efficiency. She meticulously wiped down the blinds, each stroke revealing the dust that had settled like forgotten memories, as if the world outside was waiting for her to unveil its secrets. I crept through the house, each step deliberate, as if the act of moving could somehow anchor my restless thoughts. Yet it was impossible. She stood by the window, her heart racing as she listened intently for the echo of footsteps ascending the stairs, or a knock on the door that lingered in the silence, never arriving. Silence enveloped. As we crossed paths in the dimly lit hallway, time seemed to stand still for a fleeting moment. Each moved with purpose, laundry baskets cradled in their arms as they traversed the space in opposite directions. His hand grazed mine for a fleeting moment. Perhaps it was unintentional. My grip faltered, and the basket teetered dangerously on the edge of my fingers. The restraint clawed at her, a relentless force that threatened to consume her entirely. As the evening descended, a cold weight settled within me, paralyzing my thoughts in a grip of uncertainty, a type of indecision that transcends mere confusion. Yet, the shadow of fear loomed large. Deep within me, a fierce determination burned bright. Uncertainty gnawed at me, a relentless whisper in the shadows of my mind. The thought of yearning for something so deeply was both intoxicating and terrifying. Could I truly bear the weight of that desire? My husband came back from his weekend trip, the clock ticking into the late hours of the night. His suitcase thudded gently against the floor by the door, and he pressed a kiss to my temple, the familiar warmth of his weary affection enveloping me after his journey. The air was thick with the scent of cologne, mingling with the heavy weight of exhaustion. I inquired if he felt the gnawing pangs of hunger. He was not. We lay in bed afterward, enveloped in a heavy silence that stretched between us like an unspoken chasm. He navigated through the endless sea of emails, each one a potential doorway to a new revelation. The ceiling loomed above me, a blank canvas for the swirling thoughts of a life I could scarcely fathom, and a reflection of a self that was slowly taking shape in the shadows of my mind. As the clock struck midnight, I rose silently from my slumber and made my way to the guest room. The silence hung heavy in the air, a void that swallowed all sound. The sheets lay perfectly arranged, untouched and pristine. He was nowhere to be found. I pushed the door open, stepping into the stillness that enveloped me like a shroud. On the desk lay the book I had caught him engrossed in, its pages whispering secrets of a world unknown. The very same one into which I had once stealthily tucked my letter. With a swift motion, I wrenched it open and eagerly turned the pages, my heart racing as I searched for the one that held the key. It had vanished. Silence lingered in the air, heavy and foreboding. No letter arrived, leaving an unsettling void that whispered of unspoken words and unanswered questions. No mark was left behind, a blank canvas in a world full of chaos. Merely a single page in a tale that seems all too familiar, as if the world had simply paused, untouched by the chaos that had unfolded. And yet, an undeniable certainty gripped me. He had read it, he had responded. He had urged me to keep going, to never falter. Yet I had. I lingered in that moment, time stretching endlessly around me. I can't tell you how much time has passed. Long enough for the atmosphere to shift, just long enough for my breath to steady and find its rhythm. It took me a while to confront the truth within myself. I could no longer endure this existence. She refused to love him in silence. I refused to loathe myself for it. I slipped back into bed, the sheets cool against my skin, But sleep eluded me, leaving me wide awake in the dark silence. In a fleeting moment, my husband leaned closer, his hand finding its place on my waist, igniting a spark of connection between us. With my eyes shut tight, I reached deep within, searching for a flicker of sensation. A deep yearning stirred within me, yet my skin remained unyielding. My breath flowed steadily, unbroken. My heart remained still. As dawn broke, I prepared breakfast in a heavy silence, the stillness wrapping around me like a shroud. The kitchen was alive with the rich aroma of coffee and the crisp scent of toast, yet the heaviness in my chest lingered, refusing to be lifted. My husband slipped out before dawn, the door creaking softly behind him as he headed off to a meeting that would shape the course of our day. Silence enveloped the house, a heavy stillness that seemed to hold its breath. As the clock struck 10, the haunting sound of creaking stairs echoed through the silence. I remained steadfast, refusing to turn. He slipped into the kitchen, lingering silently behind me, the air thick with unspoken tension. The contours of his presence enveloped the air around me, a palpable force that stirred the silence. The warmth of him lingered in the air, a tantalizing presence that danced just beyond my reach. Then came his voice, subdued. Silence enveloped the surroundings. I'm stepping into the unknown. I pivoted sharply. What is happening? On this very day, the bags are ready, each item carefully stowed away, anticipation buzzing in the air. My gaze locked onto him, unyielding and intense. His face betrayed no emotion, a serene mask that concealed the storm brewing within. Calm and collected, yet his eyes remained clenched shut, his jaw tightened, a telltale sign of the storm brewing within him, a silent battle against the tide of emotions, threatening to break free. What could possibly lead to such a question? He shrugged, a subtle movement that spoke volumes, as if the weight of the world rested on his shoulders, yet he chose to let it slip away. The moment has arrived. That's not enough to justify it. No, he declared, his voice firm and unwavering. Yet, it is the undeniable truth. I crossed my arms tightly, as if that simple gesture could somehow keep me from unraveling. Your promise echoed in my mind, a haunting reminder of the trust we once shared. You vowed to shield me from pain, yet here we are, standing on the precipice of betrayal. My voice barely escaped my lips, a mere breath in the silence, and I truly meant it. So what compels you to walk away? He released a slow, measured breath, the air escaping his lips like a whisper of secrets untold. Stepped closer to the counter, anticipation building with each stride. He leaned against it, the weight of the world pressing down on his shoulders. Being close to you ignites a longing within me that I can't ignore. And as I ponder, you crave it just as much. Yet, you fight against the urge. That doesn't mean you have to vanish into the shadows. I must cease being the force that keeps you teetering on the brink. Silence enveloped us, heavy and unyielding, as we stood there, words trapped in our throats. The relentless ticking of the kitchen clock echoed ominously in the background. After a tense moment, he plunged his hand into his pocket and retrieved a small object, its significance hanging in the air like a whispered secret, a meticulously folded piece of paper, its creases sharp and secrets hidden within. In the quiet solitude of my thoughts, I crafted a piece of writing. He spoke, for you, yet the choice to delve into its pages can wait for another time. I hesitated, my hand lingering just above it. But I didn't reach for it. I gazed upon it, my heart racing with anticipation. Then she turned her gaze upon him. I wish you had never pressed your lips against mine. I spoke. No, he replied softly, his voice a soothing balm in the tense air. Not a chance. With a heavy heart, I cast my gaze downward before finally grasping the paper from his outstretched hand. Will you return? Are you sure you want me to? Silence enveloped me, a heavy shroud that swallowed my words. He pivoted sharply and strode out into the unknown. The sound of the door closing echoed in the silence, a sharp reminder that something had changed. Then the roar of the car engine filled the air. Then, an eerie silence enveloped the space, thick and palpable, as if the world itself held its breath. In the heart of the kitchen, I clutched the note tightly, the weight of its words pressing down on me. Uncertainty gripped me, a haunting question lingering in the air. Had I just lost something precious, or had I skillfully evaded a fate worse than I could imagine? At last, I carefully peeled back the layers of the paper, revealing its secrets. The time slipped away swiftly. You had no reason to shadow my steps, yet you always forged ahead without seeking approval. Autumn descended suddenly, catching everyone off guard. The trees in the yard transformed as if by magic, their appearance shifting dramatically overnight. One morning the leaves shimmered in vibrant green, but by the next, they had transformed, their brilliance fading into a tapestry of gold and copper. The air sliced through the atmosphere, transforming into a brittle, parched whisper. The light shifted as well, gentler, slanted. It slithered across the kitchen tiles, casting elongated shadows, while the walls held their breath in an eerie silence. The entire house exhaled a different kind of air, as if it were preparing itself for an impending storm. It had been nearly 2 weeks since he vanished into the shadows. Since that moment, an eerie calm had enveloped everything, casting a spell of unsettling tranquility. Not peace. No. It bore a weight far greater than that. Time hung in the air, suspended in a moment of stillness. A void, an emptiness that swallowed all sound and light. I navigated the house with the familiarity of a ghost haunting its own past, drifting through the currents of my existence. Yet, every action bore a burden I struggled to articulate. As the soft fabric slipped through her fingers, she meticulously folded each piece of laundry, the rhythmic motion almost meditative. The scent of fresh detergent lingered in the air, wrapping around her like a comforting embrace. Each fold held a memory, a moment captured in time, as she lost herself in the simplicity of the task, the world outside fading away. Steam rose from the bubbling cauldron, the water churning violently as it reached its boiling point, a fierce dance of heat and energy. With a deliberate motion, the plate was placed down, its surface gleaming under the soft light, a silent promise of the feast to come. Every moment seemed intentional now, as if I were orchestrating the dance of sorrow. I chose not to call him. A message was never sent. I never sought it out, neither did he. Not a single day went by without my mind drifting to thoughts of him, pondering what he might be up to in that vast, unpredictable world. In the depths of slumber, he lay unaware, the tumult of emotions swirling within him. He seemed to linger in the stillness, caught between the hope that I might shatter the silence and the resignation that perhaps I never would. One fateful morning, as the sound of water cascaded from the shower upstairs where my husband stood, I found myself drawn back to the guest room, a place steeped in memories and whispers of the past. It was never part of my design. My feet carried me forward, racing ahead of my thoughts, which struggled to keep pace. The door groaned as it swung open, revealing the shadows that lay beyond. The room stood frozen in time, exactly as he had left it. Impressive. Silence enveloped the space, unblemished. The same book lingered on the shelf, its spine worn and secrets waiting to be uncovered. A sweatshirt hung languidly over the back of the chair, its fabric whispering secrets of warmth and comfort. The faintest trace of his cologne hung in the air, a ghostly reminder of a presence that lingered, refusing to be forgotten. With deliberate steps, I approached the bookshelf, my fingers gliding over the spines like a whisper of memory, until I found the one that beckoned to me from the past. The very place where I had concealed my letter. The one who had concealed his response. With a delicate touch, I pried it open, my fingers quaking with anticipation. And there it stood, a haunting presence in the shadows. Unfolded, the seal was broken. It was merely a slip of paper, nestled perfectly between the pages, as if it had been anticipating my return all along. You chose to remain, but you've changed in ways I can't quite grasp. There was no signature to be found. No date is set, leaving the air thick with anticipation and uncertainty. He had no use for one. With a deliberate motion, I shut the book, my fingers lingering on the cover as if to absorb its essence. I then sank down onto the edge of the bed, the weight of the story still heavy in my mind. My fingers tightened around the fabric of the blanket. I fixed my gaze on the floor, the world around me fading as my vision blurred and the weight of despair settled heavily on my shoulders. Yet, deep within me, a sense of calm began to unfurl. Not in surrender, but in acknowledgement. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the room, my husband walked through the door earlier than usual. With a bright smile illuminating his face, he moved through the bustling streets, groceries in hand, a cheerful tune escaping his lips as he hummed to the rhythm of his own joy. A smile crept across my face. I assisted him in unraveling the contents of his boxes, each item revealing a piece of his past, a story waiting to be told. He pressed his lips gently against my cheek, his eyes sparkling with enthusiasm as he shared tales of a new client who had ignited his passion. In the hushed stillness that followed dinner, as we stood shoulder to shoulder at the sink, the warm water cascading over our hands, he broke the silence with a suggestion that hung in the air like a promise. We should go somewhere next weekend. Only you and I, together in this moment. A brief journey awaits. The silence between us stretches, heavy with unspoken words, as if the world outside has forgotten our existence. It's been an eternity since we last found ourselves wrapped in the comfort of solitude. Just the two of us, away from the chaos that pulls at our hearts. I tilted my head, captivated by the dance of soap bubbles swirling around the dishes, the comforting warmth of the water enveloping my skin. "That sounds nice," I murmured, my voice barely above a whisper. I truly meant it. A fragment of my being did, as darkness enveloped the room and he drifted into slumber beside me. I found myself lying on my back, my gaze fixed on the ceiling above, lost in thought. The wind whispered through the trees outside, its voice weaving a haunting melody, while shadows danced across the ceiling, cast by the flickering street lamp down the road. I felt an eerie stillness enveloping me. Not devoid, unyielding. Silence enveloped the scene, a heavy stillness that seemed to stretch into eternity. As dawn's first light crept through the cracks, I slipped from my slumber, moving silently into the shadowy hallway. The house lay in an eerie silence, as if holding its breath, waiting for something to break the stillness. At the end of the dimly lit corridor loomed the old dresser, its presence heavy with secrets, particularly the lower drawer that I seldom dared to open. I sank to my knees and pried it open. Hidden beneath a folded towel lay the letter I had penned on the night he walked away. I wasn't prepared to hand her to him at that moment. I remained unyielding, yet I couldn't resist the urge to unfold it, my heart racing as I read the words I had penned during that excruciating moment of raw truth. "If you choose to walk away, I will remain here. Yet, you will reside in every fiber of my being." And that's far more agonizing than love itself. Time stretched endlessly as I remained seated, lost in thought. With deliberate care, I folded it, returning it to its rightful spot before gently closing the drawer, sealing away its secrets. Outside, the first wind of the new season surged forth, stirring the leaves along the path with a whisper of change. Uncertainty gnawed at me. I couldn't shake the feeling that he might never return. Uncertainty gripped me as I pondered whether I truly wanted him to. Yet, deep down, I was aware of this truth. Once he entered my life, the woman I had been vanished forever. For once you have been genuinely recognized, not merely as a spouse, not as a mere concept in someone else's mind, but as a complete, intricate being with desires and thoughts. You can never return to the shadows of obscurity. And I simply wouldn't.